Why hello everyone, and welcome back to the final part of my Devil May Cry series review, from the perspective of a series newcomer, and if this is your first video that you're watching, then howdy! So, to recap, in the last part I covered Devil May Cry 3, which was so bloody good, and the series' generational leap with Devil May Cry 4, which was overall a mixed bag and had some issues, but was quite a fun experience overall, especially since it introduces my boy Nero. A little side note, also during the gap between these reviews, I did watch about 3 episodes of the 2007 Devil May Cry anime, and all I have to say is, alright. I said, alright. I mean, it gives us more of Lady in action, which I'm more than happy for. So without further ado, let's hop, skip and jump into the final game of the series with Devil May Cry 5.
What the hell is this?
Well, here it is, boys and girls. Well, let's be honest, it's only going to be males watching this video, isn't it? The very controversial Western reboot of the Devil May Cry series. DmC Devil May Cry released in 2013 for Xbox 360, PS3 and PC, but a definitive edition was released in 2015, but I didn't get a PC release for whatever reason, so I'm going to be reviewing the original version. Okay, I have to get this out of the way immediately right now. What the fuck is with that title? DmC Devil May Cry? Why is the M in lowercase? If it's intended to be a reboot or a rebrand, then just do what they all do and use the original title, and the fans can refer to it as DmC 2013, just like Sonic fans do with Sonic 06. Now this game has a fascinating backstory. Apparently after Devil May Cry 4 released, Capcom were disappointed by the lackluster sales of the game. It didn't flop, but it wasn't the massive success that they were hoping for, so that meant that an entirely new reimagining of the series was in order. Wow, a bit drastic, wouldn't you say? When they announced the reboot, fans were not fucking happy whatsoever at what they've done to their beloved franchise, which I can completely understand. They controversially stated that Dante wasn't cool and that he was too cheesy and cringy, stating that he looked like a gay cowboy in Devil May Cry 4, and well, I'm not exactly going to disagree with that, and that if he walked into a bar, he'd get laughed at. Well, I don't think he'd really give a shit about that. I mean, that very instant happened in the anime, for God's sakes. Although, comically enough, this game actually sold less copies than Devil May Cry 4, which I just find so hilarious. This situation does remind me a lot of the Sonic Boom rebrand, which was something no one asked for, and was abandoned pretty quickly. But unlike Sonic Boom, which was fucking awful, this game is actually great. Yeah, I said it, my expectations were smashed and subverted by just how much fun this game was to play. But, like always, let's go into the brand new iterations of the characters and the game's plot. So, this new iteration of Devil May Cry takes place in Limbo City, where our main antagonist, Mundus, holds total control over the entire city. That's right, this game has its own version of Mundus from Devil May Cry 1, but they call him Mundus in this game instead of Mundus for whatever reason. We see our new iteration of Dante go into a nightclub, and he brings 2 girls back with him to his trailer on the pier next to a carnival? But Dante man, how do you get any sleep? Dante does some very unchristian acts with the girls, and the next morning a girl called Kat tells Dante that he's wanted. Not only by Mundus, but by someone else too. He puts on his clothes, fights off some demons, and then we get this infamous cutscene.
Not in a million years.
Wow, great way to get the fans to like your new reboot of the series, guys. Although, to be fair to him, what were the chances that a random white wig were to land on top of his head amidst all this chaos? I'd have a similar reaction too, to be honest. Dante has Kat lead him to a secret hideout where he meets Virgil, his brother who leads a group called the Order, who plan to take down Mundus' fascist regime. But he doesn't recognize Virgil, as he somehow has amnesia, so he gets taken to their childhood home to get his memories back.
You're my brother.
In this continuity, He and Virgil's mother was an angel instead of a human, making both of them half demon and half angel, or Nephilim as the game calls them, and they have the power to potentially overthrow Mundus. So essentially, they go and kill the succubus who mind controls the masses by spiking mass-produced energy drinks and food.
The demons have spiked it. It's okay. It has no effect on us, only humans.
Wow, that's pretty damn convenient, wouldn't you say? And Bob Barbas, who's a news presenter who spreads Mundus's propaganda and spreads false information about Dante and company. While on his way to Bob Barbas though, Dante finds out that Mundus's girlfriend, Lilith, is bearing his child, and discovers that Kat has been kidnapped. So they get Lilith and have an exchange, but it's during this exchange between Lilith and Kat that Virgil snipes Lilith in her stomach, killing her and Mundus's unborn demon child, and oh man, it's such an uncomfortable and tense moment to say the least. Like, I'm not too sure if I should even show the cutscene because it's so horrible. With Mundus weakened, they stage one final assault on the tower, and once they reach him, he uses the last of his desperate strength to turn into this giant creature. Dante and Virgil kill him, making humanity free. But it turns out that Virgil was secretly planning to usurp Mundus and control humanity for himself. Now this twist is so forced and comes out of literally nowhere. There was no build-up or foreshadowing to this. It's like they desperately wanted to have a Virgil final boss so badly that they just shoehorned in this dumb reason for them to fight. Dante nearly kills Virgil, but Kat stops him from doing so, and the wounded Virgil fucks off somewhere, warning Dante that he'll return, and that's it. It's an alright plot, I suppose, but I think the main problem surrounding the game is the characters and the writing, because the writing and dialogue in this game is pretty damn cringe. This game tries way too hard to be edgy. It does feel as if an edgy 13-year-old boy wrote it. You know, it has lots of forced swearing, sex and general tastelessness, and it takes itself way too seriously, when the other Devil May Cry games never really took themselves too seriously. But let's talk about the new Dante now, or as fans cleverly dub him, Dante. I actually thought he was alright. Like, yeah, he does come across as a bit of a dickhead at first, and not even a fun dickhead, just a dickhead. Dickhead squared. Like, he does have an arc through the story where he starts to care for humanity and becomes less selfish, and I started to like him. Obviously not as much as the original Dante, but it is kind of unfair to compare them since they did specifically want to deviate from that. It's like when a new Batman film comes out with a new actor, and everyone compares them to Keaton or Christian Bale or Kevin Conroy, you know, that's naturally going to happen. His design is pretty bland in my opinion. If he had some sort of relevant graphic on his shirt, then that would be fine, but why does he have a Union Jack on his sleeve? Let's see those teeth.
You don't look a day over 12,000.
Nope, they look fine to me. Fake Brit detected. There really isn't that much that you can say about this Cat character. I think she's supposed to be this world's equivalent to Lady, but she just reminds me of Raven from Teen Titans. That's literally all she reminded me of, from her design to the fact that she uses magic incantations to aid Dante. She's the main reason as to how Dante can actually get in and out of Limbo using her magical spray paint can, which I do like that. I like the concept of magic contained in a spray paint can, even if one of the ingredients is squirrel semen. I thought this version of Mundus was better than the one from Devil May Cry 1 actually, as he poses a threat to the protagonist and isn't the main reason that he fails, just like in the first game. And, oh boy, I'll talk about this version of Virgil a bit later on. But with all the faults of the game's story and characters, the game hands down makes up for that with the gameplay, as this game, it's so good, like it's surprisingly fun and chaotic. Dante plays kind of like a hybrid of the original Dante and Nero. He's pretty spry and nimble and has a lot of aerial combos that he can pull off. Because my main problem with the previous games was just how sluggish and slow Dante was, and that he really had no moves that he could perform in the air whatsoever. But I feel like those two criticisms are actually fixed with this game. Since in this continuity, Dante is half demon and half angel, he can utilize both angel and demon weapons. The demon weapons, which consist of a heavy axe and thick gauntlets, are slow moving but deal very heavy damage, and the angel weapons, consisting of a slick scythe and these awesome shurikens, deal little damage but are great at dealing with multiple threats at once and crowd control. He has his own version of the Rebellion Sword, which acts as an in-between weapon, and it has a hook extension which can allow him to hook onto grappling points or hook enemies towards him, just like Nero. He has his own version of Ebony and Ivory and other guns, but to be honest, I found myself using guns the least here actually, a far cry from Devil May Cry 2 where I was using them all the time. Later on in the campaign, they introduce enemies that can only be damaged by either angel or demon weapons, and they could be quite annoying. Especially the blue enemies that could only be damaged by angel weapons, since they took eons to kill. His Devil Trigger ability is vastly different here too. In the original games, Devil Trigger was just an overall buff in terms of damage and speed. But here, Dante screams like he's just busted the fattest nut ever, and the whole world turns white with the enemies being thrusted up into the air, where they're vulnerable to attack. Admittedly, the fact that they get hurled into the air does make them harder to hit, and I don't like the fact that this happens, but I guess it is useful if you're in a pinch or you're getting overwhelmed in battle. The combat and vibe of this game is so energetic, and the visuals give off this dirty, gritty, grungy vibe, and the art direction in this game is just so peak. I love the effect of the world constantly shifting and contorting around you, blocking off your path. It's genuinely creative and feels like the world itself is out to get you, especially since throughout the game, these huge sentences and words appear all over the place, insulting and mocking you every step of the way.
Subterranean Productions.
Oh, thanks a lot, game. I appreciate it. Like, I had no clue starting this game that you would eventually fight the floating head of a news anchor in this digital cyberspace realm, constantly flickering between gameplay segments presented as news footage. Like, oh my god man, the Bob Barber's boss fight is the highlight of this game. It's so great and creative. I also wasn't expecting to see a pregnant woman get sniped as well, but you know. The soundtrack of this game is a banger machine gun, if what I just said makes any sense. For this game, they contracted two real bands called Combi Christ and Noisia to do the music, and I think that this is the best soundtrack so far. It has this grungy indie vibe that suits the chaos and the theming of this game so well. Honestly, after I finished this game, Combi Christ gained a new fan. Noisia's stuff consisted more of dubstep music and more ambient tracks, which were alright, but their work mostly played in the level inside of Lilith's nightclub. I especially love the music that plays in the final boss against Virgil. I just love how it constantly pounds and thumps up and builds up throughout the fight. God, it gets you pumped. And let's talk about him then. This version of Virgil sucks. He's nowhere near as awesome and memorable as the original, and he just comes across as a complete loser and an utter clown. Like, the only things of note with this Virgil is that he uses his hacker known as 4chan skills to aid Dante throughout the campaign. He wears a fedora, which people got so mad at that they literally had to remove the fedora in the definitive edition. I'm not kidding about that, they actually did. He commits a fetus deletus, and that apparently he's packing a foot-long dong down there.
And I got a bigger dick.
Although, I do like his design though. I wouldn't be surprised if his appearance here influenced how he would look in the 5th game, to be honest. Like, god damn, he's looking snazzy as fuck. He gets his own DLC campaign titled Virgil's Downfall, in which he's a playable character. It's only 6 missions long, and it's just a waste of time. All it does is lead to a cliffhanger which will never be followed up from. The only things of note with this DLC is the fact that it gives us a playable Virgil, and it has these 2D animated cutscenes which do look pretty janky. This Virgil is actually pretty fun to play though. He only uses one weapon, and that's his katana, the Yamato, and instead of using angel and demon weapons, they're replaced with light and heavy attacks. He can also create a clone of himself with his Devil Trigger charges, which is pretty much just the doppelganger style from the 3rd game. Other than that, he plays exactly like the original Virgil. And the noises that he makes when he gets hit by the chainsaw enemies is just... just listen. Alright, one more time. So that concludes DmC Devil May Cry. Honestly, I think this game is very underrated. Despite this review coming across as a bit negative at times, I thought that this game absolutely rocked. It's very creative and it has its own sense of identity, with chaotic and energetic combat and banging music to only further and enlighten the experience. It doesn't feel like a quick cash grab, it just feels like a company genuinely wanted to make a great character action hack and slash game, but unfortunately it went against the rest of the Devil May Cry series and fans just disliked it for that. It does kind of sadden me that we'll never see a continuation of this universe actually. Like, it's a genuinely well made character action game, and believe it or not, I actually enjoyed it and remembered it more than Devil May Cry 4. And this might be a controversial choice, but I'm gonna give DmC Devil May Cry an A rank on the Devil May Cry tier list. There was no part in this game that frustrated me. I knew exactly where to go and what to do, and there were no forced puzzles or gimmicks or anything like that. Something that even the great game that Devil May Cry 3 had an issue with. Even though the reboot is an A tier, I still think that Devil May Cry 3 is my favourite of the series, but oh boy, that opinion is about to change, alright. Well, here it is, the conclusion to the series review, well, for now, with Devil May Cry 5, which released in 2019 for PlayStation 4, Xbox One and PC. So, the reception to the reboot didn't go down too well with fans and the public despite its critical praise and, well, I personally really liked it. Some years of silence were followed by the reveal that yes indeed, they were going to go back to the original continuity when Devil May Cry 5's first trailer dropped. The game's director, Hideaki Itsuno, stated that he wanted to make the best game they possibly could with this installment, and oh boy god, they certainly achieved that alright, especially knowing just how inconsistent this franchise has been so far. Yep, they're all back, the original Dante, Trish, Lady, who looks the cutest in this game by the way, and Nero from 4 returns, but he's had a haircut and has a robot arm? What happened to his cool demon arm? Well, let's cover the story first to find out what happened, and oh boy, it's a good one. Okay, so I have to state that Devil May Cry 5's story is presented in a very non-linear format. The story constantly jumps back and forth between time periods and events within the narrative from different characters' perspectives, which caught me off guard at first. The series had never really done non-linear storytelling before, so why do it now? But I'll try my best to explain it in chronological order. So Nero is chilling in his garage, fixing a van with this new character called Nico, who is about as southern as you can get, but some cloaked asshole walks in and rips Nero's cool demon arm right off, retrieving the Yamato, and then he leaves through a portal. Like, what a dick. Some days later, Dante gets a visit from another new character called V, this edgy, emo, Kylo Ren looking dude, who warns Dante about the impending threat. That being this huge demonic tree that springs up and starts killing everyone around the city, soaking up their blood in the process. The gang all go to stop it, but find out that an extremely powerful demon called Urizen is behind it all. They get overwhelmed by Urizen's immense power, and Dante's iconic rebellion sword breaks, and both he, Trish and Lady are knocked into comas. 1 month later, Nero, Nico and V return to the city, which has been completely overrun by demons, and Nero uses Nico's technical skills to replace his cool demon arm with a robot one, or a number of robot ones. So now he's joined the ranks of Luke Skywalker, Guts from Berserk and Johnny Silverhand in having one mechanical arm/hand. They kill some demons, finding Lady and Trish in the process, and while Nero gets some payback against Urizen, V goes off to find the Devil Sword Spada, and ends up discovering a comatose Dante in the process. V uses the Devil Sword Spada to awaken Dante from his comatose state, and Dante eventually stumbles across his childhood home and ends up stabbing himself with the broken rebellion sword to awaken his sin devil trigger to rescue Nero, who is about to be killed by Urizen, and Urizen ends up retreating. The whole gang forms together again, and it's here that Dante does this. The three eventually catch up to Urizen, who tries to reach godlike status, when Dante nearly kills him, but a dying V comes along and merges with Urizen to bring back Virgil in full form. Yeah, he was the one who was behind it all, for you see, he had used his swords to split himself into two beings, those being Urizen, the manifestation of his demon side, and V, the manifestation of his human side. Virgil retreats yet again, and it's here that we get the bombshell reveal.
That's not it, Nero. What is it then?
He's your father!
What?
I had the feeling the first time I saw you, but I just wasn't sure. And then I saw how the Yamato reacted. And I was certain. He's your father.
Yep, Virgil is Nero's father. So before the events of Devil May Cry 3, Virgil did the naughty with the girl, and she gave birth to Nero, who was then raised by the Order of the Sword. Dante catches up with Virgil, and they fight one last time, but Nero refuses to leave the crumbling tree, as he awakens his devil trigger form and grows a new arm in the process. He stops the Sons of Sparta from fighting, and Dante and Virgil decide to put aside their differences and cut down the Clyphos roots, which are in hell, and Dante officially lets Nero take ownership of his shop.
So, Devil's Cry, huh? Let's see what that sounds like!
Oh my god, what a fascinating plot, man. It has such brilliant stakes and theming around it, from the reveal of Nero being Virgil's son to the moment that he awakens his devil trigger. God, I was throwing my fist up in the air, I was like, fuck yeah, Nero. To that lovely part where Dante has a flashback to his mother before she was killed. I was hooked and intrigued throughout. And honestly, I think that the non-linear format actually does do the story a lot of favours. It makes it very interesting. One gripe with the game that I have is that you have to fight Urizen 5 times, and the first 3 times you fight him, you have to lose. Now, I just despise forced losses in video games. Like, what's the point of fighting the boss if you're just gonna lose against it? You know, that was just a little pet peeve of mine, and the game does make it very obvious that Virgil is behind everything. The characters are all spot on too. Dante's as goofy as ever, and he looks like an aged rock star here as well, plus his voice is great. I think he's supposed to be around 40 years old here, and one detail that I just love is the fact that his hair actually grows whilst he's in a coma. That's great attention to detail. Nero's just as based as always. I wasn't a fan of his redesign at first, but it grew on me. Plus, he does sound a lot less like Lelouch this time. I don't know if that's because they told him to sound less like Lelouch, or because he aged, or whatever. V is about as edgy and pretentious as you can get. He's a poetry reader and a beastmaster, and it looks like he got himself a Hot Topic starter pack and just rolled with it. But once you discover he's Virgil's humanity manifested, his dialogue actually makes so much more sense. Plus his voice makes my penis tingle.
Don't worry. I'll be gentle.
The other new character, Nico, is pretty interesting. She's a mechanic and has a very exaggerated southern accent. I think she might just be DMC's first LGBT character.
Well, she ain't dead. Got a pretty smoking body, though. Not that I was barely even noticed.
And get this, she's the daughter of Agnes the Scientist and VTuber fan from the 4th game. Wait, the VTuber fan had sexed? Well, looks like nothing's impossible in the DMC universe. Good to see Lady and Trish again though, even if they don't really do anything apart from just be there and appeal to the male gaze theory.
I'm not your mommy, V.
Oh, but you can be my mummy, alright. Also, I've just thought about something. If Dante is around 40 years old here, then wouldn't Lady also roughly be the same? Well damn, she's looking pretty damn fine for a 4-year-old. And Virgil is also stylish and sinister as always, even if he's only in the game for about 5 minutes. And it was nice to see him have a main villain role for once, whereas, you know, in 3 and the reboot he was more of a secondary villain. And the gameplay of Devil May Cry 5 is the smoothest and cleanest so far, almost as smooth as that transition. The game features 4 playable characters, those being Nero, Dante and V, and Virgil was added as a playable DLC character later down the line. Nero has been made 5 times more fun to play. Not only does he carry over all of his moves from 4, but he also gets additional attacks thanks to his Devil Breaker arms, which have a plethora of features. I'm not going to list all of them, but my favourite arms are Punchline, Rawhide, and the Mega Buster. Yeah, that's right, Nero's slowly starting his Mega Man cosplay. These Devil Breakers will eventually break, however, and can also be manually broken to cause a huge explosion to occur, and they can be replaced by either picking some off of the ground or by purchasing them at the shop. He can also rev up his sword whilst moving now, which I am so thankful for. Like, my god, he's been made so much fun to play. You actually don't get to use his buster moves until after you finish the game, you know, when he canonically unlocks his Devil Trigger state, but I don't mind that, man. He's just awesome. Dante is the most fun he's ever been to play as here. He's packing his swords, yeah that's right, he goes through about 3 of them in this game, and has the standard gauntlet weapon. The nunchucks from the 3rd game actually make a return, but this time they're not just ice, they can also be used with fire and lightning elements as well. And his final weapon is a motorbike that can become a giant pair of sword blades to deal huge damage to enemies. Now that's dope as fuck. He has his usual 4 styles, and his brand new ability is his Sin Devil Trigger form. He can spend his Devil Trigger charges on this meter, and once it's filled he can unleash his new form, which causes his attacks to become exponentially more powerful. You feel like a powerhouse with Subhuman blasting out in the background. Like seriously man, this song rocks, and is perfect for me to beat up my high school bullies too. The new character V is quite interesting and has quite the unique moveset. He doesn't fight himself but gets his familiars to damage the enemies for him, these being Shadow, who deals melee damage, and Griffin, who uses range attacks. V can also summon Nightmare with his Devil Trigger charges, who is this large behemoth which deals heavy damaging attacks. All of these 3 demons were actually enemies that you fought in the first game, which is nice fan service. However, V must deal the finishing blow himself, and once they're weakened, you can press B to evaporate them. Admittedly, he's a very weird character to play as. You know, some people criticise these types of games for being too button mashy, and I'd usually disagree with them, but that is the case with V, and my fingers did hurt after playing as him for a while. He's my least favourite character to play as, and I'm definitely not alone in that opinion. Plus his theme song, Crimson Cloud, is perfect music for me to cut myself in the shower to. Virgil is here, and he's in peak form honestly. He's pretty much just a copy and paste of how he was in 4. You know, he has 3 types of weapons, the Yamato, the Force Edge and the Beowulf gauntlets, and he has that bar at the top that's his concentration gauge. But now he can clone himself, which is an idea ripped straight from the reboot, and he can also perform a new move called the World of V, where he can create a screen nuke by temporarily summoning V and his familiars to do damage to all the enemies on screen. If it ain't broke, don't fix I guess, but playing as him is made even better with Bury the Light blasting out at full volume. This nearly 10-minute long epic is genuinely one of the best songs I've ever heard, although I do prefer Subhuman. For this game, they've done something different. They've added a dynamic music system to the songs. So basically, different parts of the songs will play based on what combat rank you have on the side. When you achieve an S rank with Virgil, you hear and it makes you feel unstoppable, man. The campaign is comprised of 20 missions, which has been the norm since the third game, and the 3 characters you play in it feel like they get a good amount of playtime between each other. Just like the fourth game, you don't play as Dante until halfway through the campaign, but here it feels like it's done right, whereas in the fourth game it kinda felt like it was done pretty poorly. I hope this video doesn't come across as me just bashing Devil May Cry 4, cause I did like that game, but still. There are even the occasional missions where you get to choose which character to play as in them, which is just awesome, because I get to not pick V. Virgil gets to play the whole campaign himself again, just like the third game, but I wonder what the actual Virgil fight at the end is like. Holy shit, Smears! You're actually fighting Dante this time, and he has his own movesets too. It's not Dirgil anymore. Dirgil has officially been decanonized. Woo! This game just keeps on getting better and better. One thing that I should point out is the visuals and the graphics. Now, I'm not usually one to gush over graphics of a game because gameplay is what's most important, but this game looks absolutely beautiful, man. From the environments to the special effects to the character models, they all look amazing and stunning. Although I do have some nitpicks with the models though, like Trish's spaghetti hair, and the fact that some of the characters' faces can look quite uncanny at times.
Look at the top of his head! Look at his lips!
Not to mention that this game, it just feels like it was made with soul, man, and it's full of member berries towards the previous titles, specifically towards the third game. Remember the nunchucks? Remember the Cerberus fight? Remember when Dante and Virgil fought each other? Oh my god! Yeah, I remember. I played the third game like a month prior to this, lol, of course I remember. And so that concludes my thoughts on Devil May Cry 5. Honestly, I believe them when they say that they wanted to make the best game they possibly could. Like, I wish that I could have more time to talk about this game because of how great it is. Like, I genuinely struggled to come up with thinking about negatives for this one because it's just so damn good. It's like the quintessential Devil May Cry game. Complex combat, great music, a unique style, doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's damn addictive. Devil May Cry 5 absolutely deserves a gleaming S rank on the DmC tier list, and is my favourite game of the series, and honestly, I'd say after playing it, I'd say it's now tied with Bayonetta 2 and No More Heroes as being my favourite hack and slash character action game. I am so glad that we end this review series on a high, and I can't wait to see where the series goes from here, because I'm a fan. This game rocked, it was amazing. If you enjoyed this retrospective, then please drop a like and subscribe for more content, animated or otherwise. This took a lot of work to create, as I was working on these in between life events and my part-time job, which I really dislike, but you know, have a wonderful lifetime, and I'll see you next time, and let's rock, baby!